It's not in the face! Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Hey, Not the Face with your host, John Nash, and your producer, me, Steffi Haynes. And today is Hodgepodge Day, and boy, do we have a potpourri pot filled with all kinds of dismal stuff. But before we get into all that, let's check in with John and see how he's been, because if you didn't listen to our Tuesday show, John's been battling COVID this week. So how are you, sir? Give us the update.
Well, early rounds went to COVID, but I think I've taken over since then. I think I've won the later rounds. In the championship rounds, I think I'm going to finish it off. So, but I am alive. I'm not, actually wasn't too bad a case. The problem is, I'm sure a lot of listeners know, I have a lung condition. So the COVID is just, it's the problem with it is it really built, I have a lot of hold on, my cat now she has to make her an appearance and come by and say hi. I have a lot of congestion after COVID, so I'm stuck with that for a while. So it was one day of really being sick, and a lot of days of heavy coughing I think I've had and have going forward. And because I had COVID, I'm in a state of panic because I was supposed to mail out my Valentine's gift on Monday, and I haven't even been outside yet, so...
Oh, but I'm sure she knows.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah, I'm sure I won't hear the end of this.
Oh, man, I have nothing to say there. Anyways,
Yep.
Now that we know that John has retained the belt, that he's come through the championship rounds, we'll go ahead and jump in here and let him sharpen his teeth on some topics. So... first things first, we have the UFC broadcast deal on the immediate horizon. We're a little less than 2 months out, or right at 2 months out from, being able to actively negotiate. So what are the vibes that you're getting as to who's going to get the deal?
Well, we know that the ESPN has, they are not negotiating right now with UFC. So that tells us one thing. That doesn't say ESPN's out of the deal, but I think they realize that they're not going to be able to make the big enough offer to renew the contract with UFC alone. So they're waiting to see. Basically, they're pulling what some promoters do when they have matching rights, is let this guy go into free agency and see what it's offered and see if we can match that. I think that's so. On that end, it tells us my gut instinct right now, based on Netflix's behavior and the way they're working with WWE and Endeavor's comments, is that we'll probably see, starting in April, they'll start negotiating with other networks. We'll hear shortly afterwards that they'll have some sort of deal with Netflix. Deal with Netflix problem is Netflix does not, I don't think, want tons of content like you see with the ESPN. I think they want bigger events, probably the pay-per-view type events, but I don't think they also want to run pay-per-views. So I think that would create a problem if you gave really good quality events to Netflix, but put your pay-per-view somewhere else. Well, how do you guarantee that, your pay-per-views are high enough quality that people pay anymore for that? So that's going to be the kind of dilemma. But my gut instinct right now is Netflix probably is the most likely to get some of it. Amazon may come in and swoop in and take it from Netflix, but they'll probably spread it across multiple networks, channels, and either HBO Max or ESPN again will be the filler of the week-to-week content, plus maybe a pay-per-view platform for them. So that's my gut feeling, but who knows? Right now it's up in the air, but whatever it is, UFC expects to make a ton of money.
You mentioned Amazon there, and they have already dipped their toe into pay-per-view, right?
Yeah, well, they've been doing pay-per-view with PBC, so they do have some experience with it. And so Amazon actually would probably be the better fit for the pay-per-view market. Now, maybe we end up with Netflix getting a weekly show or a monthly show just on Netflix, and Amazon does the pay-per-views. That's possible as well. But I would see Amazon probably wanting a bigger package if that was the case, something to promote around the pay-per-views. But they have done pay-per-views with PBC, so they have experience in that. So I could see them making a deal with the UFC on that front. But again, you ABC, you got Netflix, you got Amazon, both have just tons of money willing to spend. You have ESPN still probably interested in it, but they're having, they're looking at the cost and seeing they cannot afford it. They're not in the same categories as other networks. HBO Max wants to get in sports, but they don't have the money to, again, they're kind of an ESPN situation. They can't afford everything. So, and a few other networks as well thrown in. So the likelihood is that the prime real estate is at least network broadcast wise going to either go to Netflix or Amazon. And then the other ones are going to, and then the pay-per-views are going to go end up somewhere else.
I saw a number being tossed around, $900 million for the year. Do you think that sounds about right?
I mean, that would be close. That's above what Don Davis estimated. He estimated $800 million a year on the lifetime average for a 10-year deal. $900 million would be a higher end of that. That seems plausible, especially the way they can, if they're going to get into boxing too, let's say, and they have the WWE, they have a way to kind of, use these properties together to increase the value. They can kind of leverage them together. So $900 million, as absurd as that sounds, it does not seem outside the realms of possibility. Consider what everybody's been saying about sports properties and stuff. Again, UFC lucks out too is that there's no major sports properties on the market right now. So if you want to get into it, UFC is your one option.
Now, we mentioned earlier that ESPN is going to sort of let the broadcast deal expire and use it sort of like free agency to see what other offers are. Is there a possibility like we've spoken about this before, but since, ESPN is waiting and it looks like they might not have as much money, is there still a possibility they could get a piece of it?
I think there is a possibility. I think they would like to be on ESPN still because ESPN's the sports network still gives them a lot of advertising, right? Marketing. I could see them also wanting to stay on ESPN for the pay-per-views because it is, the audience is ready there. They can sell a ton. Now, the thing is though, again, when you start divvying up the product, if Netflix wants big events, and they're not, let's say they're not going to be pay-per-view events, but they're big events and you get for free on Netflix, well, then who's going to want to buy the pay-per-views if you're offering a similar product on Netflix, right? That's cheaper for the audience. So that's the issue. I think they're going to have to figure out a way to slice and dice up their product in a way. They've kind of already done it. They have pay-per-view product. They have their regular fight nights. They have Tough. They have the Dana White's Contenders. So they have certain elements they can ship around at multiple networks. Probably, I'm guessing 2 max. I don't think they go more than that. Possibly 3 if Netflix. I could possibly see maybe Netflix gets in and says we're only going to do 4 events per year.
Okay.
Big events, kind of like the old Fox on Fox channels. Then I could see that where someone still picks up the pay-per-views and they do big events 4 times a year on Netflix. And then they sell the pay-per-views to ESPN and then the weekly shows to HBO Max or something, but and split it up that way so everybody can afford it. But again, the problem becomes if Netflix wants big shows but doesn't want to do pay-per-views, then who's going to want to pay a ton for those pay-per-views? And they're going to want they don't want to split the revenue on the pay-per-views. They want a huge sum of money for the pay-per-view rights. Maybe Netflix will pay that guaranteed amount and not worry about collecting it, getting it back through a pay-per-view. Maybe they'll just say, hey, listen, we make so much money, we are willing to pay you $40 million, which apparently they're asking somewhere from 30 to 40 million now instead of where they're currently at 20 million for pay-per-views. Maybe Netflix will pay that. They paid something like that for the Tyson Jake Paul fight. That sounds like a tremendous amount of money for Netflix. More than you would for a normal event. You'd want to, recoup some of that, but who knows? Netflix, they're making money. They know what they're doing.
Does their stock activity tell you anything about the direction UFC might be going? And by the stock activity, I'm looking at TKO and Endeavor.
I'm not sure because I'm intrigued by that, but I haven't quite worked out exactly what's happening because, a lot of the insiders, I mean, the people inside the company, Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro and Witzel and all these other guys, Nick Khan, they've been buying up shares of the stock, large amounts. And on top of that, you see the stock price has just gone way up through the roof. And it's now market cap's about $30 billion, I mean, did it start at 12 billion?
Yes.
So $30 billion market cap for this company, just a tremendous increase in the market cap. And part of me wonders, well, what's going on? Is it people waiting to see what the next TV deal is? Is it just financialization because they're buying it at a premium price and it's inflating the price? I don't know exactly what's going on. So I don't know if that tells us anything. If it's more financialization, people are taking advantage because they want to cement control over the company. Part of me makes me suspect they want to have ownership because when Endeavor goes private, they want the revenue from it. I don't know exactly, but I'm going to wait and see. I do not have a clear theory yet about what's going on that.
But it does have your interest, correct?
It does. I find it, it's intriguing. I'm curious what's going on, but I'm not certain yet exactly what's going on. I mean, like example, in the last in the last 6 months, Arya Manuel has made 99 purchases, buying 2.7 million shares at an estimated $426 million in value.
That's
Patrick
a lot.
Witzel has done the same thing. Lake West Holdco Company has done the same thing, right? So you add those three together, that's 1.3 billion. Then you add in Mark Shapiro and Nick Khan and other members of the chief accounting officers and other chief executives in the company. You're at $1.5 billion of the company that has been bought. Basically 5% of it has been bought over the 6 months for them. So is that those guys alone pushing up the value? I don't know, but I find it intriguing.
Do we? Let me go back for a second. What about ESPN, Disney losing so many subscribers, not just in the last 3 months, but they've lost quite a few over 2024. Will that have any impact on how these negotiations go?
I mean, I'm sure it partly does. I mean, I think that's part of the reason is they have a streaming service is the future. Everybody called it the future of TV and stuff. And so they made this big move into streaming and they cannibalized the cable subscriptions, but the cable was actually generating all the revenue. Streaming's not generating nearly as much revenue as the cable portion has. I mean, UFC did help a lot and drive a lot of subscribers originally, but they probably have plateaued at the UFC subscription base. And they're looking at the streaming like it's still not a very lucrative industry we're in. And UFC now is going to ask for just a fortune. Now, the dilemma for them is going to be, do we want to keep some UFC content so we can keep some of the subscribers so we don't shed them all? Or do we just want to cut our losses and lose them so we don't have to pay this huge price tag? So I think that's their question. But yeah, definitely it has to be in their thinking like we are losing subscribers. And on top of that, one of our main subscription reasons for subscribing is UFC was asking for a lot more money on a platform that's not making a ton of money for us.
Do we have any idea how much the UFC makes per event from ESPN?
Yeah, we do, in fact. This is someone pointed this out to me, something to look up. I went to Virginia. I emailed the Virginia Department of Official Public Records, and I asked for disclosure. And they sent me what they sent me. Sorry, I got to look at this real quick. Is they gave me the returns for the last three Virginia events, and those events were in 2020, 2017, and 2015. So the last one was under ESPN. And if we look at that event, in 2020, it was reported. This is already publicly reported what the gate was and what the fighter payouts were for that event. That was one of the few states that was still reporting fighter payouts, and perhaps why they haven't been back to Virginia since then. But the gross receipts of the ticket sales for that event were something like $558,000, I believe, in gross receipts for the tickets. That's the gate. But it also gives you what the calculation gross receipts from broadcast fees are, right? Distributors. That tells us what the ESPN license fee is to UFC for that fight night event. So back in 2020, it was $5.93 million, $5,930,586.64 to be exact. That was what they reported as the license fee. So almost $6 million. Now remember, they're doing what, 30 fight nights per year. So that's $180 million right there. just for them. And then on top of it is the prelims they get paid for Ultimate Fighter and other entities and stuff. So probably well over 200 million back in 2020, and that's not counting their pay-per-view money. So if you go back in 2017, not 2015, 2017, they got about 4.3 million. So in the 3 years since then, since they moved from the Fox deal to the ESPN deal, it jumped up $1.6 million, right? So you're now under the previous Fox deal, we know that increased the value of the annual value increase was about 8%. I think the current one, the model is like 7%. So if that's the case, currently their current fight nights should pay them about $8 million per fight night. So when we talk about how bad fight nights are, just remember they're getting $8 million for ESPN for each one of those. And
they're mostly paying 10 and 10 because so many Contender Series guys are on these cards.
Well, if you look back at 2020, which was the Benavidez versus Figueiredo card where they crowned one of them the champion, the total fighter purses.
To access the bonus content of this episode, you must be a paid subscriber. To do that, go to heynottheface.substack.com and subscribe today.
Ow! Ow! Not the face! Ooh! Ooh! Okay, the face!